And so tonight, or today actually, on a sunny day in the Pacific Northwest, here at Broadview Library, is Lee Strauss, and I would like to say a few things about Lee. Lee is an avid outdoorsman. He's an intrepid mountain guide, a wilderness photographer, a kayaker, a musician, a drone pilot, and the UFO I-Team's tech and gadget guy. Where's your smile?
Right here.
There. And he makes us happy. Being an experiencer himself has led Lee to become a serious researcher in the field of ufology. He continues to capture amazing footage, which you're going to get to see today, of anomalous aerial activities on his frequent sky watches. So last night he was at Mount Rainier, so maybe he'll tell us a little bit about what happened at that gorgeous mountain here in Seattle area. And if there's any activity underground, is she shaking yet, or any volcanic activity yet?
Didn't feel
You
anything
didn't feel
like
anything?
that. There was a rock fall.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't feel anything.
Did you feel anything from above?
No, I didn't get any hits or any heebie-jeebies.
Okay, which he often does. So I'm going to let Lee take it away. Thank you for joining us today in the audience and on live stream.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to start talking about my story and what happened to me and how I got involved in this whole UFO thing. As you can see on the screen here, there's my name, Lee Strauss. Cool. I'm calling this PowerPoint Abductions and the Origin of the Soul. It's because through my experiences, I got to see what God was and what souls are. So I'm an outdoorsman. I hike all over Washington State. I like to go to some pretty crazy places and take awesome photography. Who am I? I'm an outdoorsman, kayaker, search and rescue for ESAR for 2 years, Everett Search and Rescue, photographer, experiencer, abductee, music producer. Next slide, hopefully. Okay. During this discussion, I'm not going to talk about my experience right away. First of all, I'm going to go into my parents' experiences and my grandparents, or my grandfather's experience, just to kind of give you a brief history of what actually happened with me and my family. So my grandfather, my mother, and my father, okay, were also involved in sightings and odd UFO phenomena. Okay, my grandfather was an engineer at Boeing in the 50s, and he designed aircraft and worked hand in hand with people making aircraft. And in July of 1952, on the 12th through the 29th, they flew him out to Washington, D.C. to take photos of these UFOs. And a lot of these UFOs are the slides I got to see when I was a kid of the anomalous aircraft and lights in the sky over D.C. Yeah, so I was probably about 6, 7, and my grandfather had this slide projector room in his basement. And he would put some slides in there and then flash through them all. And I can remember this, just these weird looking lights in the sky, different shapes and stuff like that, pretty much. And I was like intrigued at that age. Oh my gosh, that's really interesting. And Grandpa said, don't you tell anybody about this. Don't you dare. But what the kids do, right? We're going to talk. Okay, so the neighbor down the street had a son my age, and I went and told him about it. Oh boy, he had to see it too. So he came over as well. And Grandpa said to me, I thought I told you not to tell anybody about it. So, but Grandpa put on a little slideshow for him as well. So that was pretty neat. Okay, my grandfather bought a piece of property that just so happens to be across from Maury Island, okay, where the Maury Island incident occurred. Why did he purchase property there? Why did they send him to take photos in DC of these craft? Something's going on. At least I think so. Okay, we're going to switch to my mother. Her first sighting of UFO was over Green Lake. She was sitting there back in high school with another fella. She was kissing him or whatever, necking or whatever they do back then.
That's what we did. We necked.
So they were in the parking lot here on Green Lake. I'm not sure exactly where that was at the time, but a UFO came down right over the lake, just hovered there for a couple seconds, and then shot straight up. And that was my mother's first sighting of a UFO that she remembers. Now, in Omak, Washington, where my grandmother or my mother lived, and my dad, they rent a piece of property out here, a little farm that was for rent or whatever. And they moved in there, and there were some electric fences around with cow and stuff inside the electric fences. Well, one night, my father woke up and looked out the window. He could see all these blue flashing lights out in the field. And he didn't know what was going on. He got pretty scared. He grabbed his gun. My mother at the time, of course, wrapped me up and, held and hid me in the house with her. And Dad proceeded to go outside, and those flashing lights were just going on in the field. Well, they didn't do anything else that they can recall. The next morning, he went to go check where these lights were, and he saw an electric fence there. So he surmised that these cows were up rubbing on this electric fence in the middle of the night. Now, why would cows want to rub on an electric fence? That doesn't make any sense to me, all right? That's pretty odd. So, thinking like I do, I'm thinking, well, maybe they didn't see cows rubbing up against the fence. Maybe they saw, anomalous craft out in the field. Okay, Highway 20. Sorry, I'm not back too far. Go back. This other side picture here, Highway 20. My mother and my aunt got chased over Highway 20 by a UFO. So they were driving down Highway 20, and the car lights up from the back end. They don't hear any noise. All of a sudden, the light is just flooded in the vehicle. Okay. My mother, of course, is freaking out. My aunt's saying, no, stop, because maybe they can cure my MS. Right? So that's what her thought process was at the time. But my mother just floored it and hightailed it on out of there as fast as she could.
Where's Highway 20?
That's North Cascades Highway.
Okay.
So let's go into my experiences. Okay. My first experience that I can recall, I've got a set of French doors in my bedroom. One morning I woke up, I was really cold. Doors was wide open. Yeah, these doors were wide open, and I was like, well, what the heck's going on here? That's just strange. These doors don't come open. They're locked on each side, and they just, even with wind or anything like that. So that was odd. And that was probably 2 weeks before the main incident occurred. So I went to bed like normal. Nothing, didn't feel anything odd or anything. But I woke up and I was looking at the floor through my own eyes, right here. But I was also standing away from myself, looking at my body on this table. Now,
Hey, Jane, could you stand real close to the screen So I can get you both in while you're talking there, otherwise I'm going to get you, but that's perfect. If you can get closer even more to your image. There you go.
Okay. So anyway, I'm laying on this table, and this machine thing that I can see from my perspective coming down. It didn't have the needle at first. It was just these tubes that came down over the back of my neck. And then this needle started coming out and down, and I could see all this happening. And of course, my fear level shoots straight through the roof. Panic. Scared like I've never been scared before. And that needle then goes into the back of my neck. And it hurt so bad, it hurt so bad. And then I felt this incredible loving feeling, like I can only describe it as the hand of God reaching out and coddling me. It was, I don't think it's anything that you could feel in the human body. I think you'd have to be outside the human body to feel this, because it was just so overwhelming and so just encompassing. It was amazing. And then after that, I woke up in my bed. My back, my neck hurt. That feeling of love started, was leaving me. And my neck hurt. So I reached back here, and I've got dried blood and mucus type stuff on the back of my neck. And so I woke up my wife, I said, "Hey Jen, check this out, what do you think this is?" And she goes, "Oh God, it looks like something bit you during the night or something." That was that. The problem is that I remembered all of this stuff happening to me. And so I was kind of freaked out about it for that whole day at work. I was stressed pretty heavily. And then I kept trying to find other abductee groups to talk to, and I really didn't. And I kept reliving this over and over and over. I couldn't sleep at night very well. It was really tough. So it took me 2 years to find an abductee group to get in touch with about these experiences that I've had. One thing I'll mention before I move on here, the doors, they're not like our doors. They're ovaled at the top.
Doors on the spacecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what age were you then?
This, I was about 38. Mm-hmm. Yep. I was 38 when that happened. So, of course, living through that and going through it, often, just, over and over again, created PTSD for me. And it was stressful for me at work because I couldn't concentrate on work. I was concentrating about what had happened to me, and dealing with that. But like I said, I found a group of people.
So do you want us to wait on questions until the end?
Please, until there's segments of this, so then you can ask. Okay, so this incident affected my work. Construction, you don't want to be affected by anything when you're working in construction because it is a very dangerous job. People die all the time. People get hurt all the time. So you have to be aware of your surroundings constantly. I stopped backpacking, which is a thing I love to do. I didn't want to be alone out in the woods. I was pretty freaked out. And I usually do it alone, where I have been doing a lot of backpacking by myself, so. Yeah. Pretty terrifying. So the recurring nightmare haunting me wherever I go and whatever I do. It just kept coming back. So work starts getting better. Start feeling better here. So I found the support group and I started going. And that was really nice. I got to hear from other individuals that have had similar experiences to my own. I was finally able to find help through Meetup group and of other experiencers. My hope was they would tell me that didn't really happen to you. You're just crazy. You know, that's not how abductions go. That's not, you know, the normal thing, right? Well, instead of, you know, getting that, they said, yeah, that's normal. You know, and that blew my mind right there. That was just nuts. However they did, what was worse, my stories, they understood them. Things had been, there's similar aspects of their stories were in my stories, so that was a terrifying realization. This new realization shook me to the core. I felt as if everything that I had been taught while I was growing up was a lie, you know? I mean, I was Catholic, went to church. I believed, you know, in God and all of that, and how could these aliens be? The church doesn't talk about stuff like this. So I really felt bewildered and I actually, for about a month before I got to see Dr. Janet Coley, I did feel like committing suicide. I was pretty messed up. So Dr. Janet Coley, after the group said, hey, you need to go see her. And I said, okay, I'll do that. So she took me in and she sat me down, and the first session was pretty much, okay, we're gonna talk about your experience, and we're gonna use this thing called EMDR, which they use on people coming back from war who have PTSD, because it helps them through all of that sort of stuff. So EMDR, eye movement desensitization and processing. And so then we began. She started with EMDR. And the first thing I saw was this kind of thing in the corner of my room, in my bedroom. It was this wavy mass just undulating there, and it kind of looked like a brownish color. So this is a sketch of my bedroom where this mass was right here. And when she took me there, the first thing I saw out of the mass was a hand, basically. 4 fingers, okay? 4. It had a thumb. It had three regular fingers with a thumb. So the thumb was set back farther on its hand than ours, and long, skinny fingers. And that kind of made me jump in the chair, but when it stuck its head out of that thing, straight to the ceiling, it was so scary, it frightened the heck out of me. And this is through the EMDR process, when I got to see all this, and it's like a memory now. So, what came into that room was 1, 2, and then 3 beings. And I was in my bed, scared to death. I couldn't move, I couldn't scream. They had me in some kind of, I don't know, trance or something, but I could see them come in, stand by the side of the bed, and then they just kind of picked me up without touching me so much, right through the wall, out into the yard. And I was pulled up into the ship. Now I'm going to show you a short video of what I saw outside my house. with the gear that I'm using now. You saw one little thing, but here comes another one. Would you like to see that again? So, it just so happens when I take my gear outside, a lot of the time I get stuff without even realizing it. Although I did see that one. So the UFO pulled me up inside the darn thing. The smell on board the craft, let me talk about that. Through this EMDR process, I remembered the smell in the craft, and it smelled like vinegar and ammonia. And once I was pulled on the craft, I was very nauseous to my stomach, and I remember throwing up. They somehow, or I understood what they were thinking, they said humans aren't in control of their faculties, basically. And they were kind of disgusted that I had puked on board their ship. Yeah. So what it looked like on the inside, when I was there, standing there, or after I got up off the ground or the floor, or whatever it was, and there was a guy standing here, there was the three guys beside me, and then there was the oval doorway to the left, and that's where they brought me through, where that table was. Things in here seem to be illuminated strangely. There wasn't a light source, so to speak. It seemed more like light that was emanating from the walls, okay? So again, there's that contraption. And I'd like to talk about this part of the contraption here, this section, later on, because that thing did come into play at one point. Okay, so I had a guide, I suppose, I guess I call him a guide. I asked him, where are you from? And he basically showed me a spiral of planets like this. Okay, so what that means to me, either they've used DNA from all these planets to make themselves, or they inhabit all these planets currently. I don't know which, but that's what I got when I asked the question. Then I asked, what are we really? What are we at our core? You know, what makes us special? What makes us like you, or whatever the case may be? How are we all connected? And so there's my guide, and he has his hands like this, and this ball comes into it. Like that. He says, this is what we all are at our source. Everything. Trees. Animals. Everything in the universe, this is what we are at our source. And it was an awesome thing. It felt great. It felt warm, inviting. It's like all these clouds have lifted. And then this. Basically what that is source. That's God. I don't know if you can tell, but here there's lighter souls coming out of God, and souls that have learned are going back into source to deposit information, I believe is what we're doing, or to connect back with source. And from what I understand at this time, you don't lose your identity when connecting back with source. The things you want are the exact same things that source wants. And I don't even know how to put it into words, but there isn't a difference. in what we want and what Source wants. So you really don't lose your identity because you are Source, you are part of Source. And that's when it hit. The hand of God, the unfathomable love that I remembered from that incident, it came back right there when I was in her office. Of course, it didn't hit me as strong, but it was there. Talk about the communication that we had with them. They don't speak in words. They use their five senses like we use our five senses, but that's how they communicate. So they can communicate a lot of information to you by communicating with their senses. Okay? Utilizing your own. So you get, sense of touch, sense of smell, sense of hearing, sight, or I guess sight, but well, anyway, all the five senses, okay? So that's how they communicated to me, and nothing ever seemed more true or more real when they were talking with me or communicating with me. Oh, go back that way. Yeah, so there, I'm just going through how they communicate with the five senses. And here we got them listed. Sight, touch, taste, hearing, and smell. So I believe that's what they're trying to do with us humans now, is they're trying to get us to that point, to where we can communicate with our five senses. You won't be able to lie to anybody if you do that, right? Everything would be understood in how you're affecting other people when you make decisions and tell them. I believe that's what the Greys are trying to do with us, is get us to that level, to where there's more understanding. I mean, the likelihood that you would kill somebody if you knew exactly how it was going to feel, very low. All right, let's go into questions about the previous stuff.
Lee, have you discussed all of this with your family, with your past generation family that have had experiences of sightings?
I talked to my grandfather when I was little, but he died when I was about 11. So I really didn't get any more in-depth information than I did at the time.
Did they have abduction experiences or just sightings that you know of?
What I know of is nobody else in my family have had abduction experiences until like 6 years ago, and almost my ex-wife now did when she was younger too. So.
What do you think they were doing when they used the needle on your neck?
I don't know if they were putting something in or pulling something out. I'm not sure. I have no idea. But I've had Bell's palsy. You've ever heard of that? I've had that 3 times.
You've had what?
Bell's palsy 3 times.
What?
And it's something to do with the fluid in your spine. So I don't know if there's a connection there somehow or not.
How does that affect you?
Well, it's usually one side of my face goes totally limp. And I can't chew on that side or anything. It's horrible.
But then that does go away,
With steroids.
huh?
Another thing I talked about, that other part of that machine. Now going back Dr. Janet Coley, this was not my only incident. I've had incidences stemming back to age 5. In fact, the farthest back that she took me, that other piece of that thing came into play. And I know you guys probably heard about, anal probing and shit like that, right? Well, that part of that device, that's what it does. And the reason why it was told to me that they do that sort of thing is everything that you put on your skin, everything that you put in your hair, fabric softeners, makeup, everything that you put on yourself eventually will go through the bowel. And so what they're doing is they're testing for, how this material is affecting the human body. So that's the gist of that. The funny part of that is, in the session with her, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm talking like I'm 5 years old to this what I thought was a ghost that came in the room, but it turned out to be a gray. During the procedure, I told them I could have just told you what I had for dinner. There's no reason for that. and that's when that came through as why they're doing it. So, yeah.
So Lee,
Uh,
that object, the round object,
yes,
Would
the
you-
soul.
would you call that an orb?
I would call it a soul. We all look like that in very different colors in the blues. Not, yeah. So the older our soul is, the brighter we are. The more vibrant, the more, yeah. So the younger soul doesn't have as much color yet.
Did you get an impression about the age of your soul?
I didn't.
So would you say the soul, it's like a part of the source, creator? Yeah. That's an ancient idea, so it totally resonates.
Cool. Yeah, it resonates with me. I went through it. Yes, go ahead.
When you said the 5 senses, are you discerning between inner senses and the external ones?
No, just external senses. They communicate through our external senses. So, inner senses, other than showing you pictures, in your mind.
I guess for me, the discernment is if they are communicating telepathically, that's an inner sense.
Okay. Yeah, but your
Like,
sense.
I'm not hearing somebody's vibrations of their actual voice coming into my ear. So to me,
Right.
there's a distinction between all the inner and the external senses.
Okay. Yeah, so you would pick up on a smell, you would pick up on the sense of touch of something, or the feel of something,
Sure.
but it's all being communicated into your mind, not
Sure.
like you're
That's the
feeling.
inner senses.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that it on the questions? Okay. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to let you know that Mary Kennedy, the certified hypnotherapist, is watching your
Oh,
production, so say hi.
I do have a question.
yeah.
You said you were 38
Mhm.
when you had your first experience?
Right.
So how much later was it that you can recall having another one?
Okay, so let's get into that right now. This is the book that I draw in. Of course, you can see souls. It's like when you watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind. When you watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and all of a sudden that guy, gentleman, starts making mountains out of mashed potatoes and clay and dirt and all this stuff. Well, that's what I did, is I started just drawing souls all over the place.
Wow.
So, let's see here. So we're going to the question about what was it again?
Well,
Oh, what other-
Well,
okay.
that's a time.
Okay, so The next one that I got was the night of October 13th, 2014.
Okay.
Okay. So what happened here was I saw Gray, and it looked like he was coming through like a TV screen, a fuzzy TV screen or something like that. was there. Okay. The next one I had was a waking experience. I was awake. I opened my eyes and there was one staring me right in my face like this. And that's the only time that I recall being awake and seeing something in my room. The other time I had to go through EMDR to see it. But that time I woke up, he was staring right at me, and it scared me, of course, at first, and I lurched, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna try to communicate, right? And it was like, or he was like, no, it's not gonna happen. And he started numbing me from my feet up. Just started, and I couldn't move, and then I just blacked out.
That's really interesting. I've never heard of people starting to have experiences that late in life. Usually it's in the time they're a child.
Yeah, well, that's when they started.
Huh, yeah, interesting.
Mhm.
Are you concerned about having more of them, or?
I welcome them now, whereas before I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I actively search for contact. Yes, Michael?
Can you explain how you made that transition to the original fear that you felt when something like this happened, and now to the fact that you can accept it and even search for it?
Well, it's a lot of, I went through 12 sessions with Dr. Jan Foley, and I want to know. I mean, the thirst for knowledge is overriding any fear that I might have now. I feel that they want to better us, not hurt us in any way. So if that's the case, of course I want to meet them, and be open and accepting and those things.
With that first experience, it hurt really bad, you said. Has anything like that happened since that's really been painful?
Since then, no, nothing painful. I did have a dream where I woke up, I can't explain this. I woke up and I was deeply in love with somebody that I had never met in my life, a person. And that was the craziest thing because it didn't go away. I mean, it took like a day and a half before that feeling actually left me all the way. And so I wake up and I'm thoroughly depressed because I'm not with that individual. That was horrible. So I can only assume that it didn't happen in my room. Maybe it happened somewhere else on craft or whatever the case may be. And that was a big deal. Stressful. Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead.
Just one quick question. When you get the downloads or the hits or the weebie-jeebies that you as you call it, would you say that is a sensorial experience, your external senses, or is that more telepathic?
External senses. I feel butterflies in my stomach. I start getting really shaky. My heart starts pounding. I start getting sweaty. And then I basically know that they're around somewhere. So, of course, at that time when I get those feelings, I break out my gear and start looking for things to film. And I'll show you some of those things right here. So, this picture was a screen capture that I took from the Luna, which is this guy right here. Up at Mount Baker, up by Twin Lakes. So I captured the craft in the sky. Of course, we use an app on our phones that basically tells us where the International Space Station is, what satellites are in the area, so we know what we're looking for when we do our night watches. And this is the actual film of that one.
What type? What is that? Space station? It didn't come up, because if it was a state, no, it ain't Lincoln. Come on, turn direction or flare up. I've got him right now on video. He's too steady. I don't know. It's not blinking.
The other people that are in this video are Tom Singer and Ander. They're talking in the background.
Once
Everybody's
you
going
wrap
up.
up, I'm going to turn mine off. I don't want the binoculars. Yeah, nothing. I don't see that either. All right. I'm going to turn. What?
This is not going in a straight line.
What do you mean it's not round?
It's like curving.
Yeah,
Aren't there other stars in the sky?
there are, yeah.
I'm just curious why they aren't.
Well, you just saw one go by.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where'd you go?
No, there would be other stars. There would be just a blank sky like that,
Well,
right?
No, there was stars. I'll show you. Just let it play out, and then I'll show you.
Okay.
No noise. No noise at all. You know how an airplane, even that high, you would hear it. Oh, absolutely. There you go. I'm going to turn mine off now then. You got it. There you
So no one's running to hide?
All right, so let's go back here.
go. What type?
See, start here.
What is that? Space station?
Another star here.
It didn't come up, because if it was a state thing, no, it ain't Lincoln.
so at this point, it's going straight up at an angle.
Right.
And it actually,
And then it kind of does this.
yeah, kind
And then
of
it
arcs
arcs
over to the right.
Turn direction or flare up.
But anyway, let's move to the next.
I've got him right now on video.
This one just so happened, today in fact, Tyler picked up for Secure Team 10. So that's a proud moment for me. And I'll play it. Oops. Back.
Tell people how they can see this on Tyler's.
Yeah, on Tyler's latest,
Secure Team 10.
Secure Team 10 channel it's the latest video up. And that's just the plane, and here's the object itself. Or the two, because you have two coming down over the mountain at the same rated speed.
Is he at Gilliland's?
We're not. No, this is Lake, Kalakla Lake. Yeah. All right, so just a brief thing about this. When we were sitting here on the shoreline in this general area, it was me, was Ander, Tom, and Michael. Okay? And we're facing in this direction, basically at the mountain, just like the picture shows. And before dusk fell, I was like, you know what's gonna happen? The craft is gonna do this. It's gonna come from over here, it's gonna go above the mountain, and it's gonna go straight down over that peak. That's what I said. So Michael has his binoculars out, and he's looking around. All of a sudden, he sees 3 dots in the sky, one of course bigger than the other 2. The bigger one, and then a smaller one here, and a smaller one right there. If I show you the other video that I made of this, which you can see, I can show it to you. There's 3 objects in the sky that drop down. The last one, or the first one, drops down very quickly within the first 5 seconds of the film. Anyway, I said that's what it's going to do. It's going to come over here, it's going to drop right over the peak, the highest peak. Michael says, "Hey guys," or actually before that, Tom got a hit, and then I got a hit right after Tom, and then we knew that something was going on. Then we saw those 3 dots, and they started just going straight down right over the highest peak of the mountain. We did not see them come from the right, but that was pretty amazing. Anyway, nevertheless.
In synchronous formation, too.
Yeah, absolutely. They were all falling at the same speed, same rate of speed,
It
same
didn't
distance apart.
It didn't move from the distance to
No.
each other.
No. And this was not something that was in space. This was something that was actually going down behind the mountain. Let's see here. Ooh. Losing something. Transmission. Okay, so this is what I did to slow it down so you could actually see the three objects. See it there? And it disappears. And then the mountain.
Could it be going into the mountain?
I think it was farther back then.
Okay.
And it looks like the aura is wrapping around it like this. Bats are flying all over the place. That's right.
Huh.
Oh, that's a great effect right there. Wow.
What's coming out of that big one?
Just light.
Yeah, lots of stuff. Energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I've got some other stuff to show you.
We gotta see how many hits that gets on Tyler's secure team.
Yeah. So let's go through these 2 clips real quick. One of these was captured at Mary's ranch.
The Double Luck Ranch.
That guy right there on the side.
Straight.
And then the other one you've already seen.
Is there any way you should show that one again? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then, let's see, there was another really good one. This one here. This one Michael will remember. So you can see the mountains in the background. This was up at Baker as well. So we're standing up there with some of the locals, and we see these lights across over by the other mountains. And we're watching these darn things. We're watching these darn things, and they're doing some crazy stuff. And we're freaking out. We're like, wow, look at that. And then we started asking it to do stuff. We started asking, flare up.
Telepathically, you mean?
Yeah, no, we'd say it out loud. Flare up, do something, and then all of a sudden it would flare up like that. And we asked it to change colors, and it changed to red. We asked it to do other stuff too. But anything we asked it to do, it would do.
Did you send this to
Pulse.
Doctor?
Huh?
Did you send this to Doctor?
No.
Wow. I think he'd like that. That's amazing.
And there was actually more than one of them. I think Michael had his binoculars going off over there, so I don't know. How many did you see? Yeah, there was just 2.
Probably saw 5 of them total that night,
Uh-huh.
but they were coming on and off.
And this is during the sky watch.
Yep.
Up on Artist Point, right?
Yeah.
This is facing towards Canada. The problem with it, there was a lot of wind that night, so the cameras kind of got a little jitter to it, unfortunately. Not only that, I'm sitting here, that was the first time I've ever used the Lumen. So,
We even had a cheap dollar store light stick that was really cool and fluttering different colors that we turned on, and then this thing started changing colors.
Did you get an impression about why they're around mountains a lot?
I don't know why they're around volcanoes a lot.
Other volcanoes.
I have no idea why that is. But anyway, that's just more of the same. It's replaying itself.
Good video.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. I'm gonna go to this one.
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 of these things, and they sat stationary in the sky for like a half hour. There. So we just filmed them for as long as we could stand to sit there and watch them,
Same
because
place.
they didn't really do anything other than just sit there and do that.
I don't know, entertain us or something.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Mount Baker again. Same place.
No, this is filmed over. We were at Tiger Mountain.
Is it cool?
Yep. You can see that the other stars were actually moving past slowly, while these were just staying stationary in the sky. So, and they never seem to get any closer together or get farther apart. They kind of just held their same spacing the whole time. Is that cool? Now, let's talk about this. The infamous door. Up at Twin Lakes, when we were doing a sky watch up there, I just happened to look across into a cliff face, and I saw this thing, it looks like a door. And now people have said up there at Mount Baker that there is an underground facility for these aliens or whatever, different species or whatever they are together down there, whatever. This is where they come and go from to monitor people on the planet. But I saw this and my interest was piqued. And so this summer, I'm gonna figure out how to climb up there and go take a look to see what's going on.
Whoa.
Yeah. Have fun.
I will.
And you're gonna take gear with you
Oh yeah,
and record it.
absolutely.
Do you have anybody that is willing to go with you?
Carlos, or,
And,
and,
yeah.
yeah. So we'll do that. Yeah, you guys have any more questions?
It looks quite large compared to those trees.
Yeah, I would say it's probably 30 by 20 anyway.
Okay.
So 30 feet by 20 feet opening. Now, I don't know why they would need an opening. If they can pull somebody through a wall,
Right.
why would they need an opening in
I think it looks almost like Black Ops. Military.
Camouflage.
Oh, it could be.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a
Why
thought.
would it just be a normal cave on the side of a mountain, just for starters? I mean,
Sure.
for me, I have to just start with what is first.
Yeah, but as you can see,
I've been hiking a lot.
Mhm. As you can see though, it looks like you've got different types of rock. And the rock in the background actually looks like it has streaks, either from going up or coming down or whatever the case may be.
oh, good point.
It does.
Well, it looks totally different rock.
Yeah,
And there is debris on the bottom,
right, yeah.
for some reason.
It looks like a door.
Hmm.
A panel of some sort.
Looks pretty doggone thick as well.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
So how large was the spacecraft that you were in?
The one that I got pulled into, that I recall from Dr. Janet Coley, was probably about 30 feet by 30 feet.
I've heard that some people who have been up there, that the outside of the spacecraft that they foresee looks maybe 30, 50 feet diameter, and they get inside and it's like a couple of football fields looking inside, like the dimensions just change.
I didn't sense that at all when I was on board. It seemed as big inside as it did outside.
So have you had ongoing communication with them in any way? Not at all.
No. Not that I'm aware of.
Did you ever get the impression that actually they have as much to learn from us as vice versa?
Well, that's why I think they're looking at, our fecal matter or doing tests on us, is because they want to learn something from us. Learn, just like you would test something in the wild, an animal in the wild, when you tag it.
Yeah, but that infers that we are still superior to the animals in the wild when we do that. And
Well, a lot of humans do think they're superior to the animals in the wild.
No, I agree. So
Yeah.
I'm saying my experience is that we have something they need. Because of their evolution and our evolution, we're meeting and crossing at the same time because of mutually needed needs.
Good point.
Did you sense they had emotion, feelings?
Yes, yep, not so much what I would call the drones, but the guys.
May I have your attention? If you have a black Mazda CX-9 in the parking lot, can you come up to the information desk?
That's definitely not yours.
That's not mine,
No.
no.
Lee, you just
That's
said
black.
the drones versus the what? So you were interacting with two different.
Yeah, so, my contact, or who I call Tarok, that's what I've learned his name is, or what he likes to be called,
Thoreau?
Tarok.
Tarok.
Thoreau.
Yep. He is a gray, but he's different. He is a little bit taller than what I call the drones, and his head's more round. It's not so almond shaped. He looks like he might be, dare I say, something I don't know about, like first generation hybrid type. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I know that he had irises, right? And let's get into that real quick too, since after my sessions with Dr. Janet Coley, I'd always go to work the next day and then something would happen. Like I'd unlock a piece of information and I'd go, oh yeah, that's how they did that, or whatever the case may be. But they have lenses over their eyes when they're here. I don't know if it's for bacteria or if it's because they can see better in the dark when they have these lenses in. But what they do is they drop some liquid in their eye and it feathers out and becomes like a lens, and then they just grab it and peel it out later on, just like trash.
Would you consider the fact that when you saw them, that they're wearing spacesuits? It's not their skin? Like organic kind of spacesuits or something? Do you ever get that?
Yeah, there's kind of like it's not shimmery material. How would I describe it? It's almost like their skin colored type of material, and it looks like, let's do this. And another picture. Theirs is skin tight. However, on one of my other abductions, I saw a gentleman that had a really high collar. And this is the only other type of alien that I saw besides the Greys and Chirurch. He was standing at some sort of a podium, and there was a bunch of humans, that we were all naked, standing around this hole in the floor with earth down below. And he had this huge high collar, like it came around like this on it, and then it had like not zipper, but it had like two panels on either side, like they came together in the front all the way down. And he was telling us about how Earth is like a living being, and you have to respect the planet, love the planet, because it is alive, just like you and me. We can definitely do damage to it. But like he was odd. He was older. He had hair, and he had a wrinkly face, really wrinkly face.
Do you ever, so this hypothesis of either they're from our future path, coming back to us, versus coming from another alternative reality kind of schematic? Do you have?
Well, like I said earlier, when I asked where you're from, they showed me a spiral of planets.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't show me like Earth in the future. They showed me a spiral of planets. So I would take from that and say they're probably not from our future. I think they are probably from the present in this reality and not another reality.
I think that's a really important point. You don't hear too many people talking about that.
Well, I guess it's the metaphysics. Everything is in the eternal here and now, depending upon if we stay in linear time or step out of it. You see, it's a paradox, isn't it? It could still be future, and they're in the present moment with us.
Yep, Michael.
Lee, can you bring your Skywatch gear here closer for us and
sure.
kind of explain a little bit about how you conduct a Skywatch?
So what I have on this tripod is a Luna Optics, and this is the new 60 version. And I've got a camera on the side of that is a full spectrum camera. So let's say I feel something and I'm getting hit, but I can't see where it's at. I might hit the full spectrum camera because you're gonna catch stuff that's out of the normal range of visible light that we have. Infrared and also into the ultraviolet range. So that's why that camera's on board. Also, the Luna does not have audio. So the other camera does have audio to pick up, you know, whatever's being said. And that's key. Because most of the stuff that I have right now, there's no audio. Just things moving in the sky. So,
Can you tell us about your revolutionary new idea with the battery draining on your cameras?
so it's common when you see something, or when I see something out there, to get a power draw from my Lunas. And what I've done is I bought a battery pack, an external battery pack for it, so that I can watch the drain as it's going on. It'll tell me how many volts is being pulled from the battery pack. Now, you put a camera on that and watch the digital readout drop, if that's happening.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, Lee, your old buddy Gene Coleman is watching you. Say hi to Gene.
Hey Gene, how you doing?
Hi, Jean.
Yeah, he's back.
So that's
So does that happen to you often? In other words, it does happen on a periodic basis that your batteries just go.
They go. That's the funny thing. They'll drop out when something is crossing the sky, and then all of a sudden they'll be fine again after whatever it is leaves.
In other words, the charge will come back.
Yep, the charge
Into the
comes
battery.
back to the battery.
Wow.
One last question. Do you have any awareness from either previous or after these experiences of becoming more psychic in any other way, intuitive, whatever that word means, those faculties?
Yes, I would say that I probably am, just because of things that I've observed and things that I've done. But I can't say that it's reliable or that it's regular. So, I mean, I know when they're around. Does that mean that I'm psychic? I don't think so necessarily. I think it's probably just the ability there, you know, of knowing what it feels like when they aren't around. Because they sure give off an aura about them.
Learned intuitiveness.
Yeah, learned intuitiveness, right?
Yes, because that question is, how do you receive that information on the frequency it comes in on, other than through what would be called the psychic or intuitive senses?
Yeah.
Do you get a feeling that you are somehow connected to them now since did that happen after your abductions, do you think, or that was a result of potentially?
Yes, I think it was a result of. I remember sitting at home and then getting what I can only describe as it was negative feeling. A negative, not like when we go out and do night watches or anything like that, but it felt really foreboding. And I didn't sleep that whole night. But I didn't see anything either as far as I know. But, so when we do our, you know, the electric parking lot up at Mount Baker, when we went out there for the first time, that was the first one that I remember it feeling okay and like it wasn't a scary thing. It was more just like, here we are, you know. And then we saw that big glowing mass go through the clouds down the ravine. It was pretty cool.
You want to tell them about that?
I can, yeah. So we're all standing in what we call the electric parking lot up at Mount Baker, and it's just before you go up to the ski, where people ski. It's at the bottom of the hill there, and we're all standing. This is the first time I've been up to Mount Baker to look for UFOs. Tom Sanger, I met him and said, "Yeah, I'll do this. This sounds cool." And so we're there in this parking lot, and all of a sudden I get the weird butterflies in the stomach. My heart starts racing. sweating, shaky, and all of a sudden, this huge light, and this thing must have been 200 feet across, circle. Started from up the valley, and it shot down to the end of the valley in probably 3 seconds. So it was hauling butt, but it lit up the clouds just underneath it. So we didn't actually get to see the craft itself, but we saw the round light emanating from it.
Do you get the sense, since you're doing a lot of observations more, it sounds like once you had your encounters, that you become attuned to them in a way? Have your sightings increased over time in any way as you got this attunement with them and the fear receded?
I've only been doing this active looking for about 6 years.
Okay.
I would say it hasn't gotten any greater or any less. I'd like it to be more, but
Have you considered going to other countries to?
it's all about funding now, isn't it? I mean, you do what you can afford.
Peru, the natives are so used to seeing them, they just take it for granted. The number of sightings there apparently is pretty incredible.
Which Gene Coleman could tell you about if he was here.
Well, other than that, that's all I got. Oh, wait.
Would like to know what you have to say about this relating to consciousness, your personal experience and the whole phenomenon.
Well, as it relates to consciousness, I almost think that consciously having a relationship with them is more difficult. I think our subconscious has a better relationship with them. And the reason being is because they always show up in threes, and that's because they're scared that something could happen. One could lose control of the person and then get beat up or killed. You know what I mean? I mean, things like that do happen. So
Did they communicate that to you? Or is that just something?
they always show up in threes. Why do they always show up in threes? That's just their MO.
So it's a magic number as well, we do numbers at all.
So if one of them gets hurt, there's always a backup.
So are they more like your teachers?
In a way, yes, I would say that. In fact, we can actually, if you've had, I don't know how much time I've got, but
7 and 3.
okay. So let's go into this. I'm going to start talking about my kids a little bit about what's happened with them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I have a little girl. I'm not going to mention her name. I'm not going to tell you how old she is. She's young. She's pretty young. And she was playing in her room one day. And I was watching her play, and she's doing some weird stuff on the floor, sitting, with her legs out in front of her on the floor. She's doing some stuff, and I don't know what she's doing. So I'm like, hey, honey, what are you doing? She goes, well, I'm doing tests just like the little doctors did on me. I'm like, what are you talking about, little doctors? And she goes, well, I knew it was okay because I was there and Grandma was there, so she knew it was okay. But in sessions with Dr. Janet Coley, I have seen her playing with other gray hybrid beings, playing with blocks. And I think they also want to learn something from us, you're right. And that's how our imagination works, because I don't think their imagination, they're all about truth, and actualities and, those sorts of things. They don't understand how to come up with a story. So I think that's something that they want to know how to do. So play is important.
So is that the only incident so far with your daughter of her?
That's the main incident with my daughter. There are some strange bruises that we have gotten. Jennifer, probably shouldn't have said that, but yeah, anyway.
Did you say bruises?
Bruises, just strange bruises, like that look like fingerprint bruises. Or just recently, I got one on my leg, and I can't tell you where it came from. It's so bad that it looks like you would know where it came from, but I can't figure it out. I don't know where it came from. I can show you. It's nasty.
Do you have any scoop marks?
No, this one raised up on me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah.
I would have remembered that.
It looks like the
And it's
soul
got
spirit.
it's got a nasty bump in it too.
Oh my
Right in the center.
goodness.
When did that show up?
This was so it would have been Saturday morning. I realized it was there, and I
Saturday morning,
Saturday.
like yesterday?
yeah, yesterday, Saturday morning.
Oh.
Ghost activity.
We've had a little bit of that stuff in the house, but it's never been negative. It's always been, good stuff, finding things that we've been missing, stuff like that. Put in places where, strange places, yeah.
Now that you're in the show and tell mode, do I remember you have a scoop mark on your other shin as well?
You seem to think I do, I'm not so sure.
You want to show us your shin or not? I don't know if it'll show up, but why not?
Okay, Michael, prove your point.
We'll try to do it.
I don't see one here. You said I do have one. Oh, right there.
You can feel it?
Oh, yeah. It's like, it feels like it's dug out of the bone,
Yes.
Okay.
but I don't.
And that's, obviously these things fill in over time span, but you definitely got an indentation going there.
Yeah.
And do you feel something underneath the skin as well?
Just like a hole in the bone, like I did it in the bone.
Okay, there you go.
Have you had implants?
No.
Okay.
I don't think they need implants. I don't think, because they can find you using your brain waves and stuff like that. They recognize that stuff. So they don't need to put something in you to find it.
So, hold on, because I've channeled that they can identify people from brainwaves or energy pattern or something like that, so you've also got that information.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are all the implants that people are coming up with?
So I believe they're just to keep track of vital systems, probably, and not so much keep track of where the individual is. Because your pattern is unique. Every person's pattern is unique. You should be able to, with the right technology, be able to find that, hone in on it, like a fingerprint.
You mentioned your daughter. What about your son?
The son, he had recurring dreams about something that he called the toucan man.
Really?
Yeah, which we never really figured out, but the toucan man was always in this room
That
when he was
sounds,
younger.
that sounds more like a ghost kind of thing though, doesn't it? Does
It
that
may-
many
I have no
aliens
idea.
have a, or,
I mean, when I was a kid, the alien looked like a ghost to me. It was kind of a clear, you could see through it a little bit, and then when I went through therapy, I found out it wasn't a ghost, it was an alien, and there was one on the deck, and there was one that was coming through the side of the house. So,
do you think that they're projecting an image to him that
it
he's
could be that.
interpreting?
Something friendly, like a toucan,
Yeah,
colored
because the
bead.
Fruit Loops,
Like
right?
a Fruit Loops
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, exactly, so.
Every kid would know that.
Huh.
Right, so.
Good point.
Wow, interesting.
Well, thank you, Lee, for your wonderful presentation and all the questions. What's next? What's our next Skywatch event?
Well, we are trying to look at next weekend for another Skywatch. So stay tuned for that. We gotta watch the weather.
What
Even
date would that be? For the camera?
Sunday's Mother's Day.
12/13.
Yeah. So we have that which might happen, and we just have to watch the skies and make sure that
Okay.
we have good weather.
All right.
So next month, June 6th, Karen Penoza will be here from Glacier, Washington. She is the orb gardener. And she's working on a PowerPoint presentation, so we'll get to see lots of orbs and hear about her experiences. She's very childlike, and I see it as a magical experience as she goes out at night, sometimes without any clothing, and just dances with them. So, yeah, maybe we'll have pictures of that.
That'll draw a lot of folks in.
We can announce that. So thanks for joining us today, and thanks for those of you on live stream, and Michael, thanks for your production again. We'll see you next month.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Oh man, you won't believe how many hits you're gonna get off of that.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. That's
Thank you,
fantastic.
Lee.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great presentation.
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. This is how you're gonna like get
The same.
hundreds of people to show up at this event. When this thing goes on live, actually right now it's going to,
So.
the only way I really know how to do it is go to UFO IT thing.
Yeah.
So now I can share it to wherever you want me to share it.
Now she's made friends with them mostly, and that phase.
Sufan has their own Facebook page, right? Okay.
Well, we have to meet at
The tantrums on Father's.
Susan, do we have an activity?
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an A.
well, it'll be here for sure on
So we can pull
UFO
it, we
IT.
can pull it off and share it with our own pages.
Yeah, oh yeah. If you got pages, we can share it directly to that, to your page.
We're on YouTube.
Yeah, and
We need to know about our YouTube page. Can we put that on our YouTube page?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Well, I've got it recorded.
here's so far, here's the thumbnail of this video. It automatically just grabs the first image it can, you know, to